Hey there, welcome to the Healthy Vibes podcast. I am Kelly Renato, and I thank you so much for joining me today. I have a special guest. Her name is Britt Brandon, and her story is so inspirational, and I truly enjoyed our conversation. I hope you listen in. She has a story of recovery and hope, and she is on a mission to help other women rise above their circumstances and embrace the life they deserve. She escaped an abusive marriage, and she is here stronger than ever to tell you about it and tell you what she's doing to help others that have come through any sort of rough ordeal. She is so positive, a joy to talk to, and I know that you're going to enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Hey, Britt, thanks for being with us today. I'm so excited to have you because we have so much good stuff to talk about.
Thank you for having me, Kelly. I've been so looking forward to this.
Me too. I feel like we have a lot in common, but I think you also have a lot to share that so many of my listeners will enjoy. So I'd love for you to start, first of all, and just tell us a little bit about your journey and your just kind of what brought you to this point right now, but your personal journey that started it.
Oh, I'm happy to. So everything kind of started when I was 18. I moved away to attend university and I'm very shy. So it's kind of funny that I found fitness I literally just kind of fell into the fitness industry. There was a Bally's Total Fitness. I don't know if you remember that from that long ago chain.
Oh, I do.
So there was one across the street from our university, and that was my escape. So I shared a dorm room. I didn't want to be there. And it just felt like I didn't fit anywhere there. And I found the gym, and it was just like, whether I was taking classes or on a machine it was just awesome and it was open 24 hours. So I was able to go there and just, if I was stressed out and couldn't sleep, it was like, okay, well, I got to do something. And I didn't want to disturb my roommates. It was just perfect. So, but I was there enough that they were like, you should be a personal trainer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do that. And I did. I took the certification, and so that was the beginning. And at the time, I was a psychology major. And so, I look back on it now, and it was so perfect how everything kind of stacked up together. But, the psychology behind utilizing exercise to help my mind, help my body, it was just all encompassing, and just piqued my interest in like, how can you harness this to, just live well and be, feel great all the time. So fast forward to just a couple years later, I had my first daughter. And while I was pregnant with her was my nutrition piece, when that piece of the puzzle fell into place. And we went to a doctor's appointment, just a checkup. And my midwife was asking me, how everything is going. And I was telling her everything was fine. And my husband is sitting there, and he's like, she is eating so much spinach. Like, it is a concerning amount of spinach. It is a concerning amount of spinach. And at the time, and this is 18 years ago, when we were having like all of these spinach recalls and all of this. And she's like, she looks at me without even missing a beat. She looks at me and she's like, oh, you're iron deficient. And I was like, what in the world? How are those two things even remotely linked? And she was like, your body's seeking out iron in iron-rich foods. And I had never eaten spinach before. This was like a completely different, like, weird thing. And I just thought it was a pregnancy craving, but sure enough. And so she did my panels, and I was extremely anemic. And so
I love that she knew that, though, because I feel like you don't find that very often.
Right. And that was my first aha. I'm like covered in chills even just saying this, but it was so cool to know like my body was that powerful, that I had a deficiency, and it tricked my mind programmed my mind to seek out foods that had what I needed in order to repair that deficiency. So it was, and then I was on races. Yeah. So I started, that was when I got certified for fitness nutrition specialization during that pregnancy, during my next pregnancy, which was like almost immediately after. And we were off to the races in terms of, linking up with a publisher who just randomly published an ad for somebody who could write smoothie recipes. And it turned into a 23 published book writing career that has just been incredible.
So exciting.
Thank you. I love it.
Great books, I feel like. Great books and great titles. We'll have to get to those for sure.
Thank
Great
you.
topics.
Yes, it's been such fun.
That's wonderful. So I have to say that the fitness journey part of it, that's so similar to when I was in college. Same thing. I was like studying business, lost, and I was like, I ended up going to the gym all the time. I would go there and like I'd bring my book and just put it on the stepper. Or either way, like, and same thing. I was going to all the aerobic classes, and my teacher was like, "Why don't you just teach?" And I was like, "Really?" And same thing. I was kind of shy, nervous to get out in front of people, but then it was funny when I'd get on stage for aerobics, it was a whole different like ball game. I was like, this is my place. I love this. So cool.
Yeah.
So then where did it happen? So you were in the journey, but at some point, you realized even deeper that there was more things you needed in terms of your own personal life and your own personal journey, correct?
Yes. So while everything looked, fantastic on the outside, within the four walls of our home was just absolutely crazy. So I was in a very abusive marriage. I had 3 small kids. And when it reached the point that I knew that if I stayed, I would probably die, that I needed to leave. So even though I had tried to leave a number of times before, I didn't care if we were going to be homeless, which we ended up being, while I got us on our feet. But in that process, I just wanted to be numb. And it was, everything was loud and everything was intense. And I just wanted to numb everything. And so I turned to alcohol, which was, and it worked until it didn't, that's one of my, that's, and it, it worked for a long time. It worked for a pretty good time, and it got me through, some of the scary times. But I look back now and I think of how many things could have been different and better if I would have been able. I think it killed my self-esteem, but who knows what all was, the shoulda, woulda, couldas are not helpful. But it's just sad. There's no not sad part of it. So anyway, I was faced with, I needed to either clean up my act or, because I had full custody of my children. It ended up that our abuser was sentenced to prison. And so I had full custody of my kids, and I couldn't be the way that I was. So luckily, and I say this, so sincerely, that I got a DUI, and it was the most random DUI. Like, most people are out drinking at night and something happens. That mine was such an incredible whirlwind of beautiful circumstances that just happened and set me up for success, or whatever you want to call it, in that day. And it changed my life. And so it set me on this trajectory of, I have to heal the underlying symptoms of what the heck is that I'm trying to numb. And there was a lot there. And it was just the very beginning of a process. But luckily, I had this beautiful aha moment that from the 22 years that I had spent coaching all of these clients, I could utilize all of these beautiful skills that I had used to successfully coach them in being able to help myself. And it was like I was off to the races. It was like, everything took off. And one piece at a time, I was able to dial in, whether it was my faith. I had never even had faith prior to this time of my life, when everything was out of control and crazy. And when the day I hit my knees, it felt like everything got worse before it got better. But upon retrospect, it was like the perfect design. And then, I was just able to lock in not only the faith, but also my food and my fitness and the fun that had been missing in my life, fellowship that I had missed out on, and then sleep, glorious sleep. And so I was just able to, utilize all of these different holistic approaches to healing and transform my life. And now, even now, like it blows my mind how far we've come. I mean, I have 3 little kids who have experienced the most traumatic of traumatic experiences. I mean, I detail them slightly in my book, but I mean, it would be entirely possible that they would just be, not okay. And instead, they're just thriving and amazing and wonderful human beings who are just so, beautifully settled and secure. And it's just amazing to see what you can do when you have these 6 elements of your life kind of dialed in.
Whoa. So much from what you said. First of all, I love that you are where you are and you can look back and see where you got out of something so awful. I love that you turned to faith, but I also love that you decided to turn to some really good choices, but you decided to own your responsibility and own like changing your life, right? Like I feel like that situation you just described, you could have so easily fallen into the poor me or that why did this happen or
Yep. I mean, and
yeah,
that's an option. That's an option for all of us in every,
absolutely.
and it's an option every day. I mean,
Absolutely. I was going to say that is an easy option in the day-to-day simple
yep.
situations, not even counting what what you went through is like huge. Many people don't ever experience something like you just said.
Mm.
But wow, like that's really powerful and taking something bad and having it improve your life. And I think so many people parallel with that in other types of horrible situations,
Yeah,
correct?
and that's the hope that I'm on a mission to share. Like it sounds so simplistic, but it's like these things are so powerful, and it makes you want to. I mean, you absolutely do have the opportunity to kind of like wallow. And even though like our story, it sounds intense because it was our reality. It was just kind of like we were in this super wild adrenaline fueled situation for so long that it was kind of like the numbing that I sought out in alcohol. If I had known better then, I could have utilized these other 6 beautiful elements of life to be able to help. And that's what I think a majority of women just like me who are struggling with some component of their life, whether it's the past, the present, the fear of the future, whatever the case might be, I feel like we are struggling and we don't know what to do. And it's like,
Hmm.
do you know what I mean? And it's like
Oh,
these
absolutely.
things work.
These things work. So on that point first, I do love that because I feel like that's a big part of what I push to people is the simple things. And I'm not saying they're easy, but they really are simple changes in your day-to-day life that really can completely change the trajectory of your life. And it doesn't happen overnight,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
like you said, the it's the things that we have control over if we choose to take control over one at a time, like the sleep, the what we're putting in our mouth, the just starting to move or getting outside, like the prayer. Like I love that getting down on your knees. And a lot of people have that story, but really truly saying, like knowing nobody's just going to pick me up and fix it right now, but knowing that I can fix it.
Yep. Yeah. And I love that you make that distinction. That's the first time I've ever heard somebody make that beautiful distinction. They're simple. It doesn't mean they're easy, but they are simple. And that's exactly, I mean, that needs to be on a pillow.
Right, because that's so true. Like they're not easy, but they really are simple things. And I always tell people before you even like, and some people, yes, need there's I'm not minimizing that some people need like big things, maybe
Oh,
medication
absolutely.
or
Yep.
I'm not minimizing that. But I do think a lot of times before we run off to to the doctor or to the whatever, just change a few things and you'd be surprised. And I also like in your story how you reflect back and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like helping me. And I think that there's an awareness that a lot of us don't have either to say, everyone's very against, I've tried that. I can't do that. I don't have time for that. And I'm like, no, no, really. Just take a moment and not only try it, but reflect on it and be like, huh, I do feel better that I walked outside for a few minutes and took some deep breaths rather than, right?
Right.
Like like hammering through that last, whatever it is for the day. Like it's a different approach to life than I think we are pressured to live.
Yep. And giving it a chance is, I mean, it's just, it's like, what do you have to lose? And like, I always
Yes.
like to think this has the potential to be life changing. I mean, there have been a couple things in my life that have been like, I cannot believe how powerful that one change is. I mean, like when it comes to sleep, and it's a riot that something that we have kind of been, I mean, it's wild that we just have all of this like mass media messaging, like all of, I mean, just the way we're raised, it's kind of like we think of sleep as being kind of like, negotiable, or that we can compromise. Like we'll just kind of go to sleep a little bit later. We'll wake up a little bit earlier. And I mean, our sleep is, it's almost like there needs to be a class on like, no, we need to be prioritizing sleep in order to be able to, I mean, people think that it's completely unrelated, but when you have carb cravings after not getting, a good night's sleep, like your cortisol is wreaking havoc on your blood sugar, which is wreaking havoc on, back to my craving spinach. Your blood sugar is kind of signaling to your brain like, hey, I need fuel. When you don't need fuel, you need sleep. And it's like all of these things that seem unrelated. If we could focus on just fixing a couple little areas that, it seems like it's not going to make a big difference. Or like you said, I've tried that. And it's like, we need to, if we focus on the simple things, sometimes the complex things fall into place.
Which is so true.
Mm-hmm.
So true. I couldn't agree more. Especially with the sleep. I feel like, especially so many times when people are like, I've had enough, I can't do it anymore. I'm like, you just need a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
I'm like, you need to start fresh tomorrow. And today just call it like all done. Like, we're just going to go get a good night's sleep and let's approach this tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's funny because so I have had this amazing opportunity, and I kind of feel like I've been running my own like little psychological study in my house, because I have three very different kids who are, they're all teenagers, and everybody, teenagers have such a bad reputation.
Yeah, they do. I would agree.
Right. And so I just had the luck of the draw. I have three amazing kids, and they're 13, 16, and 18. And it's funny because so they know, like I talk to them about nutrition. I talk to them about fitness, and I model all of the things that I preach to them about. And so one night, so I had, oh my goodness, it was so crazy. So I had like 2 days where it was just pumping this book out, and it felt like the last push when I was giving birth. It was literally like crawling across the finish line. It was like, I'm so close. I'm so close. And so I was talking to my middle daughter in the kitchen, and I said something, and she was like, wow, you are really cranky. I was like, do you think so? And she was like, I really think that you need some good sleep. Like you really need some good sleep. And it was so good for her to recognize that in me, because I want them to be able to recognize those things in themselves, rather than just thinking like I'm a cranky person, or I'm negative, or coming across as whatever. Like, I mean, when we start to prioritize the things that set us up for success health-wise and happy, like, and health-wise, not just in physical, but also mental and emotional, like we need to be able to, kind of turn the focus, and just like you said, instead of just rushing to the doctor, figure out like, what does my body need right now?
Absolutely. And I love that about your daughter. I would say the same. I feel like that was always, and when my kids were little, I feel like that was the main thing. I had a few like priorities. And one of them was just to teach them about health. And I think some of us get impatient or whatever, because someone said one time, if you want your kid to be kind, teach them how to be kind and give them 15 years to practice. Or if you want your kid to be whatever, teach them how to eat well, but give them 15 years to practice. Like, it's not a simple thing. You just keep like reminding them, in a way, but modeling, like you just said, to me is huge. I always say, like, you can't tell your kid to take care of themselves if you're not taking care of yourself.
Right?
Like, because they look at you like, what are you talking about? Like, so modeling it and being that example, because it's not easy, and showing them that you make a priority of, I only have 30 minutes, but I'm going to go get a quick workout in before dinner. I'll see you in a minute.
And you know,
right?
I think they pick up so many tips and tricks. Like when we're trying to figure something out, when we're trying to like just even keeping a fitness routine as an example, right? So it's like they watch as we come up against like, oh, it's raining, so I can't go for a run. They watch. What are we going to do? Are we
Right.
are we just going to say no? I'm not going to work out, or are they going to watch us find an alternative? Same thing is like I really don't want to go work out today. Are they going to watch you follow through and not work out, or are they going to watch you follow through and do that workout that you're not looking forward to? I mean, they look to us for like not only like what's appropriate or what we can do or what we should do, but also in terms of like kind of mustering up like what did we do when we didn't want to go work out that day? Like did we put our shoes on and just force ourselves to go, because they'll do that when they don't want to do something or when they don't want to do a workout. It's that whole monkey see monkey do, but it's also that not having to reinvent the wheel. Like they've already seen us come up against the challenge of bad weather or the challenge of not wanting to do something and having to do it, and whatever tips and strategies they see us work with success, they're going to implement on their own.
I would totally agree. How we handle everything, they're watching as they get older. There was a time when I realized parenting, it had switched. They had become of age where it really, like, I started parenting different because I knew, like, I was like, I can't just tell them what to do anymore. Like, they look at me like, whatever, lady. And so I feel like I started like, okay, I gotta go. And you're right though. Teenagers have this like terrible, everyone thinks teenagers are all this or that. And I was like determined to be like, no, I'm approaching this different. I'm not just assuming. And I think this is how we interact with teenagers just makes such a difference. And that's all they're looking for really is someone to see them differently, to know that, because they're going through like such an awkward time in life. And I remember it.
I tell my kids all the time that you could not pay me enough money to go back and live that stretch. Like my son is 13 years old. Like his voice is cracking. He's got massive feet. He's growing like fat. He's like, we call him Jack and the Beanstalk. Like it is so like my 18-year-old was saying to me the other day, she like pulled me aside and she's like, Mom, he is eating so much food. Like seriously concerned. And the thing is that it's like it's like you, and he's such a sweet, kind-hearted kid. But I know like so he and a bunch of his friends always like to kind of like, they like to hang out in this one shopping plaza. And he was like, some people are nice to us. And I was like, they see you coming and it's like, and I mean, I know it's just a stereotype and whatnot, and maybe they fall into it. I'm not there to watch, but at the same time, it's like, I want my kids to know that I'm going to give them a chance. And I have full faith in them that they can become, beautiful human beings who are contributing to society and doing good things, that not just for other people, but also for themselves. And I think, the more that we can try to foster these good habits, and just like you said, I mean, like the monkey see, monkey do. Like, I mean, I think alcohol, my daughter was saying that the other day, that alcohol has become like this really acceptable thing. And she said that she thought they had never really thought about it, but it's definitely a different experience to not open up our fridge and see alcohol in the fridge. And she goes over to her friends' houses, and that's the case over there. And so it's like, but then they're telling their kids not to drink. And so just like you're saying, in terms of monkey see, monkey do, it's just, there's a lot to unpack.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I would agree with you. I was going to say this teenage roller, we could do a whole nother, maybe we'll bring you back and we'll talk through that too, since we both have teenagers. I couldn't agree more with the story of how when they get confronted and how parents, treat them or don't treat them. And I do love the stories of watching parents, and who you surround yourself with matters too, but also walking your kid through it. Like I feel like once they turn to a certain age, I've always honest with them, but I feel like we do have those very honest stories or, conversations about, and, how other people make choices or how they don't or whatever. But even this morning, I apologized to my daughter because I was a little grouchy last night. And I was like, you know what? I probably shouldn't have responded that way to you. And I really should have responded this way. But so before I keep going on teenagers, I want to go back to like not only your journey, but your clients. So you told us a little bit about your recovery journey. So what other recovery do you work with your clients, or have you found and you see that all of these, things help with that as well?
Yes. So I was so happy you asked. So it's so like I said, this whole coaching experience started 22 years ago. And I've had the awesome opportunity, I'm glad that I had this psychology background, because I love studies. Like, I love studies. And I think every person is a study. And it's like its own scientific, like, what is happening, what's the, there's cause and effect, there's all of these. I mean, I'm working with a client right now, and just this morning I was on the phone with her, and she was like, I can't believe, like, we just made this one little switch, and after a couple weeks of not seeing any change, it was like bam. And so one of the things is that people definitely get caught up on, whether it's calories or working out or all of these different things, and they come to me thinking like, okay, this is my goal, this is what I'm currently doing, and I don't know what's wrong. And so a lot of the underlying issues are what we need to kind of tackle simultaneously. There's obviously, just like I say, in the book, that there's faith, food, fitness, fun, fellowship, and sleep. There's these main focuses. But I also pack into the book like the things that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. And so when we're working with people who are, trying to, and it's the full gamut. There's people who are presenting with, they can't sleep at all. And I mean, it's impressive to even hear about somebody who can function on literally like zero sleep. Mm-hmm. And then, people who are recovering from whether it's alcoholism, drug addiction, grief, illness, disease, injury. That, like, I have a client who, and she's incredible, and she's in Scotland, and she was at a bar for a birthday party, and she bent down to sign a birthday card on her knee, and somebody had been dancing on the bar just over her and fell on her, and so she was a quadriplegic and has come back from that and is a fully functioning. She was just on holiday. I've been getting all of these beautiful messages with pictures, and she's one of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life, but she was determined that she was not going to never walk again. And so she has used physical fitness, faith. And we joke all the time, because she's like, she says, and she was one of the first people to read my book. And she's like, she doesn't, have a religious, but she believes in the universe. And she's like, this is it's so important to be able to believe in something. And that's the point. Like, no matter what it is, we have to be able to have some kind of stretch outside of our faith outside. I'm so sorry to have.
Is that your dogs?
So sorry. But when we have these elements, you can recover from anything.
Absolutely. I would agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is amazing though, her story.
Isn't it?
Really. So it was all of those things that brought her back.
Oh yeah. She's had to work with, and it's wild that the physicians who she has been connected with have absolutely fallen in love with her. She's an amazing human being. Her spirit, she's the funniest person, and just so sweet and kind, and she just loves everybody. But and I always say that I've never met a veterinarian who wasn't like you, just so kind-hearted and wonderful, and so she totally fits that bill. But she has doctors who retired like a decade ago who still work with her and check in with her and try these new modalities. Now, she still has limitations where she can't stand for, when she goes on flights, like they were just on this really long flight to London, and she had to be able to get up and move around and do this thing because she knows that she can't sit for too long with her feet down, and she's got these limitations. But man, for somebody who was supposed to be a quadriplegic or was told that, and literally was like, in that moment, she was like, no, you are wrong. Like not for 1 second did she believe that. And so she's just created this life, in that focuses on nutrition. And man, I mean, every single thing that I would tell her, we were focusing on anti-inflammatory foods and on movement that was just going to challenge her but not exacerbate her condition. And it was just absolutely incredible to see her come to life in these new ways that she felt like were the last hump that she had to overcome. And I mean, it's absolutely incredible when you can start honing in on, and these things all kind of, they network together. So like you'll have the faith piece in place, so that's fantastic. And then you'll have the nutrition piece in place, so that's fantastic. But you'll need like help with the sleep. And so it's kind of like, you notice that you're not really making that much of an effort on the exercise part. And then you start wearing yourself out during the day by implementing, a pretty simple exercise routine, but it's a far cry from what you were doing when you were doing nothing. And then all of a sudden your sleep starts to improve. And then all of these things are kind of like interconnected, like this beautiful web, and everything starts to improve, like write it up dominoes.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I love that. So past the fitness and food, because I feel like we hear so much about that. And those are both a topic probably within themselves, and the faith too. I love that you have fun and fellowship. Give me a little bit more about people that are missing. Isn't that what you said? Fun and fellowship?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we fall into a trap of, and it's just by accident. And it's kind of just like how our society is kind of set up. Like we can get lost for hours in our phone, and, like everything that is, it can be a lot of work to get ourselves up and out of the house to go do like a group activity,
Yeah.
especially if we worked all day and the last thing that we want to do is go to like, a Bible study at night, or go, play pickleball on Saturday when it's like we have to clean the house. It's kind of like we have to make it a priority. But there's so much scientific evidence that just shows how our brains respond when we have that sense of connection with other human beings, right? And
Right.
when we can utilize that for our benefit in order to be able to kind of like break free from the mundane where it's just kind of like ho-hum, I illustrate it by, I don't know if you've ever been in a grocery store where you're kind of like, you have the most random conversation with, whether it's a store clerk or somebody there, and you laugh and it's like you're joking and you don't know that person. You've never met that person. You'll never see that person again. But you walk out of that store with like a little bit of a pep in your step. And it's like your brain just got these awesome hits of beautiful endorphins that make you happy. And it's like, that is such an important piece that I feel like, because we kind of do settle for online communication and connection, that we miss out on.
I love that very much. I feel like you just described me to a T, because I'm very much the person that will, and I'll say sometimes, like I'll laugh or have a story and I'm like, whoa, like they didn't get like my humor, because I love laughing and I just think life is very funny. And I think it's so huge in how we approach life and how it affects our health. And I say a lot of times, like, I know you think I'm irresponsible or you think I'm ridiculous or foolish, but to me, that approach to life, it changes you. If you just change your perspective, because we're so serious, we're so like focused on what's the next thing I got to do? Where am I going? Everyone's just so serious. And so like, they just get offended so easily and they just get upset. And I just think, and don't get me wrong, I can fall into that trap on days where I'm tired or, whatever. But when we approach it lighter and laughing, like life is just better. And you take, like you said, you have the pep in your step, you feel it in your brain. I couldn't agree more. And I love that, because approaching life lighter and it's just really changes things.
Yep. Oh, it just makes everything easier. I mean, it's things that we have to get done. I say all the time too, like, especially in the book, it's great when you can, especially in the fun chapter, like we can actually have fun. I mean, it's limitless, the things that we can have fun at. We just have to find things that bring us joy. But when you add other people into the mix, it's like, oh, this is exponential,
Yes, exactly. And those are my favorite people, the people that can also laugh, or even the people you're trying to get to laugh, which I think is funny too, because sometimes you're like, okay, yeah, they're really fighting me on that. But people that just love to laugh and take life lighter, like they are the best. You're right. It's exponential what you get from them.
Yes, yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so do you have tips or things that you with your clients that maybe help them change the perspective on life, or, how they approach that end of it?
So one of the fun things, and it's also scary, is you have to get to know yourself. And so one of the biggest group of clients that I have are people who are either preparing to be empty nesters or are, just recently empty nesters, because all of a sudden everything kind of gets very real, that you are about to have a ton of time with yourself. And most people, and I had this happen when I was able to, and I'll never forget, I was sitting we had this little apartment, and the kids and I were in this apartment. I was sitting there kind of just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what I like to do. Like, even if I had time to do something, what would I do? And
Mhm.
we're always filling these roles, like whatever we do at work, like we have that hat, or we have the mom hat, or we have, the if we're in that sandwich generation, like I have an
Oh,
older mom that I love and I want to be well, so I try to take care of her as much as I can too. And so there's, whether we are the daughter, the mom, the friend, we're always wearing these different hats, but we kind of forget to like what do we like to do? And so it can be a really fun but scary thing. But journaling is one of the most incredible ways that I have been able that I have found successful with my clients in terms of being able to kind of bring that out, because most of us don't know. And you can do a voice journal. I have one of my best clients who has had the most success at this, and just, I mean, flourished like crazy. She was just keeping this like voice diary, and I thought it was so sweet, because she'd be like, she would listen back to it and be like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what I learned about myself.
that's hysterical. I love that though.
Right?
Yes, but
It's amazing what you can learn about yourself and what you don't know you like to do. And I mean, it can be something as simple as like, I forgot that I love to read. Like, I forgot that I love to read murder mysteries. And so it was like, and I have like a couple, a couple favorite authors, and I have every one of their books. And I mean, so it's just like, we get stuck into, and there is never going to be a shortage of things to do. So
mhm.
like, whether we need to finish cleaning or finish a project or whatever. So we put ourselves last a lot. And so whether
Yes,
it's
we
having
do.
fun, or making friends, and having those connections outside of our everyday to-dos and lives that we have to have everything done, it can be hard to kind of put everything on pause and not have guilt about being like, no, I'm going to take this time to either have some fun or go spend time with my friends.
I would totally agree. And it's almost that practice of start doing it, stop beating yourself up. It's
Yes.
like you really have to change how you talk to yourself on that. I could not agree more,
Yes, give
because you're
ourselves
right. We get,
grace. Yes.
I, but I love it. Turning again inward to see, like, get to know yourself. Like, what do you like? And then having the courage to do that. And it's so simple. Get a book.
Again,
Like,
yeah.
you used to like these, right? Yes, I did. So and that's where sometimes I do think people, I love that it's working with your clients.
Mm,
Again, people like minimize it, or they brush it off because they're like, really, reading a book's going to help me? Really? You
right.
think, you know what I mean? It's that like,
Stick back to your thing, right? Yep. They're simple, but these things work.
yes, opening your mind to the simple things. And it's almost like, just give them a chance, give them a chance. So I love that. So is there anything that you found when you first start with a client? I mean, to go with what we were just talking about, that helps them to either get started, like something, and I'm sure all of them are different,
Mhm.
but is there anything that you found in common, even just an approach to help them get started?
Oh yeah. Oh, so there's a couple things that can be immediately helpful, and I feel like they're almost like things that just like quiet noise, right? Because there's all of this
Mhm.
awesome, there's so many things that we could focus on. But if you can do like there's three different kind of focuses. So, and one is movement, one is with nutrition, and one is with sleep. So first of all, we have to have sleep on our radar. Like how much sleep are you getting, and what's the quality, and what is affecting it negatively, and what can we be changing to the positive. So all of those things kind of have to start being on your radar. It's not something that we need to be like doing a deep dive on. I just want them on people's radar, because your brain will start figuring it out for you and working with you to start putting in place some good routines and start pointing out like, look at, so last night I didn't sleep well, and then you'll think like, oh, but last night before I went to bed, I did XYZ, and I bet that contributed to it. And I bet the next time that you're about to do that activity before bed, you're going to think like, oh, that time that I did this last time, I didn't sleep well. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind
of I do.
That process moving. Yeah. And then with nutrition, people have got to stop eating all day, every day. So one of the biggest things that I will get from a client is like, especially if we're just starting to work together, is when I start asking them, what's your eating routine? They'll be like, I eat this in the morning, and then like we're going all the way from first thing in the morning all the way until the very end of, and then it'll be like, and like sometimes I get snacky at night, and it's like, okay, so we're talking about 16 hours of like straight eating. That's a ton of time. And we're not back in farming days where we needed to fuel up first thing to get out into the fields and really like pump out some crazy amount of work, and then come back in and have a hearty lunch, and then get back out there and burn the midnight oil or whatever the case is. So instead, intermittent fasting is one of the most effective ways that I have been able to bring attention to when people are eating. I think people don't realize how much time they're spending eating.
I would agree.
Yeah. And so even just having the goal of like, let's try to minimize it to a fueling window of 8 hours. Like everybody, you can see the wheels turning, and people kind of get like panicky, and it's like, so what would that look like? And I break it down super simply. It's going to be like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Like, does that feel comfortable? We're just going to skip breakfast and start with a morning snack. This is a game changer, because people do not realize how often you're eating after dinner, or, just it's an all day thing. And it's not, we don't need it. We don't need that kind of nutrition all day. And we don't give our bodies a break from digesting constantly.
And it's funny, like, I totally agree with you. And this is a concept, to be honest, that I don't even think back in the day when I started with my aerobic certification, personal trainer, even in college, this concept was not a big one. Like people talked about fasting, and truly when people would tell me about fasting, I wasn't completely on board, because I was like, I don't know. What are you, it was almost an extreme thing. I felt like it was creating extremeness.
Yes.
But now I do exactly what you just said. And it was really, I went into more early menopause, and I was not prepared for it. It threw me into a whole place that I had no idea what to do with.
Yeah.
And all I knew was I didn't want my doctor just giving me like hormones. So I had to figure it out myself. And intermittent fasting helped me, because the more I read, and I always say that sometimes you have to have someone say it the right way for you to get it, right?
Absolutely.
Like you can say different things. When I finally started understanding my digestive system was never resting,
right?
and I understood my gut more. And like you said, like we really do eat too much. Like we don't need as much. Like people like, I remember when I was learning or in classes, they'd say like, you use a lot of energy just to sit around on the couch all day, like your body, like your, basal metabolic rate or whatever. So it stuck with me that how much you need, but it's the approach is different to me now. Like what you just said, knowing my digestive system needs rest. My body really doesn't need that much at my stage of life.
Right. I love that.
But it changed everything.
Yeah. And see, so, and I have a ton of clients who are trying to navigate menopause. And just like you said, I don't think anybody's ready for it. I have yet to meet somebody who is like, I entered menopause, loved it, crushing it.
No, right? It was like a screeching halt.
Yeah.
I was like,
you learn so, and I joke all the time. Like there needs to be a name for the point that you reach in your life when all of a sudden you go from like when you wanted to lose like 4 or 5 pounds before, it was like you would diet for a day and then
Right.
you hit this magical phase of your life where it's like, okay, so you want to lose that 4 or 5 pounds and you do your thing and instead you gain. And it's like, what is happening? And
Yes.
it's back to, even in terms of the nutrition, like to piggyback on the amount of time that we're eating throughout the day. I wish people would focus on the quality, like the what their food is comprised of. So macros, long ago, we were, everybody was like calories in, calories out. Like, look, what are the calories that you're eating? Okay, I'm eating 1,250 calories. I'm on a diet. I'm eating this many calories. We're so beyond that. Now science is, okay, so what is, what are your macros? And to me, that's the missing piece. Like a calorie is not a calorie is not a calorie. An apple calorie is very different from a Twinkie calorie. And we need to start making that, we need to start having a really big, like I would just have a neon sign above my head. Like for all women, we need to be prioritizing protein. Like,
Yes.
oh my goodness. I mean, talk about a game changer, a life changer. Yes. I mean, have more energy, not have cravings, be able to not feel snacky all day. Like up the ante with your protein, it really resolves so many things.
It totally does. And I find that the intermittent fasting and the protein were game changers for me when it came to menopause and start focusing on my gut, like the gut connection to the brain and everything.
I have a whole
Amazing.
piece
Like
in the food chapter about the gut. Yes, absolutely.
that's so amazing, right?
Absolutely.
But I do feel like the side effects that I wasn't expecting, because when you said your clients are like, it's almost like they panic when you think, I want you to eat less and not start right away. They panic because they're like attached to their food. But the surprising thing is once you start, I believe, if you're eating the right things, like you just said, what you're actually, eating, putting in your mouth, it becomes easier than you thought. And the surprising bonus to me was my mind. I feel like it became clearer. Like I really could tell a difference.
It's unbelievable. It really does.
Right?
It's amazing. It's almost like you're distracting everything about you by digesting all the time. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, if you think about how much goes into the digestive process, it's not too far-fetched to think. I mean, like all of our blood rushes to the gut. The body has to exert so much effort. And then back to what we're eating, it's incredible to think that we are going to sit down, have a huge meal, and then get back to work. And I mean, it's pretty wild. And so I'm not surprised that you had that. And it's just like you said, everybody is unique. I will have some clients who come in and there's no way that they're going to be able to skip breakfast. And I kind of flip it and I'm like, well, then what about skipping dinner? What about ending earlier and not having dinner finish your day? And you would not believe how many people have awesome success with cutting out dinner. And I'm a dinner person. I forego my breakfast. So I'm fine with my 10 to 6. But I have tons of people who do the exact opposite and they're 8 to 4 and they're fine with that. They finish with an afternoon snack and they're done. And it's like, okay. And it's a raving success.
Which I love that though, because everyone is individual. I totally agree. No, not everyone. And I always try to tell people that what worked for me is not necessarily going to work for you. But the whole goal, just like you said, is to get to know yourself. Yes. And I like the idea though, that depending on what's best for them. I think we're so stuck in what we've known or what we grew up with or what was just impounded in our head. Like, that you have a big dinner or you come home to a big meal. And sometimes that works, but it's okay too for your breakfast day, your biggest or the midday or whatever it is, whatever works for you, and to be like light at night. I always think that when my kids are out of the house, my whole routine will probably change because and it's fine. I'm not rushing it but knowing that it's okay for this one to have a lot or this, it's very individualized. And I always say to make it like simple to my clients, I'm like, you give yourself all of this, your body doesn't know what to do with it. Like your body's in there going like, stop. Like, I don't even know what to do with all this stuff that you're giving me and all these calories and all these like crazy foods.
Yep. And I mean, it's silly for us not to think of it that way. I mean, it's like, and it's such a beautiful system that's so intricately designed, and it handles things so well. But when it's constantly being bombarded, you know what I mean? I mean, I was thinking the other day in terms of people who, you know, because when you first start, like, I love when people start tracking, and that's one of the things in my book. Like, if there's nothing that you take away, like, I mean, obviously there's a bunch of takeaways in every chapter, but I think everybody should track their food and see where they fall. And it's like, I think a lot of people will be shocked at how many calories they consume, but of what kind. I mean, when I started, you know, tracking my meals and snacks, and I mean, I don't do it every day, but when I started tracking to see where I fell, I thought my protein and fiber, I was like, oh, they're going to be so off the charts. And they were so sad. And it's like, I don't think we have that awareness of what we're eating and when we're eating. And so when we put that on our radar and we put it down on paper, or we put it somewhere where we're able to actually see it in black and white, it can be startling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yep.
That's with everything in our life. I still remember taking the Franklin Covey course. You know what I'm talking about? And they told you to track your time.
Yes.
And I was like a spa director at the time. And I sat in my office for a week and I would write where all my time went. And I was like, holy cow. Like, I'm just distracted all day.
I know.
Like,
incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I know. And I was just talking to my middle one. We were just talking about like her time on her phone. And my oldest and I were telling her, like, we think it's excessive. And she was like, really? Like, you think that it's excessive? We were like, yeah, we didn't want to say anything, but we think you might have a problem.
I have an older one that does that too. That's so funny.
Even for myself, I had this solitaire app, and I was like, I convinced myself, I was like, this is my downtime. This is my way to unwind. And it got out of control.
Well, even social media, I feel the same because I'm very I feel like I have my boundaries. I don't do a lot of scrolling. But when I was talking to my kids, same thing for their phones. I'm like, listen, because I think it's such a hard conversation. It's such the biggest parenting struggle ever that we're dealing with in this age. But I just kept trying to educate, like we're talking about, and make them aware. I'm like, listen, you're at the age now, like, I'm not putting hard stops, or I want you to figure out how to control this yourself. Because I feel like it's a life skill to learn how to put it down and have a conversation, or realize I'm scrolling right now, put it down and go do something else. And I'm going to stay on you, but I really want you to figure it out. But I started looking at my own time because I'm like, I'm really good at it. But I decided, because I was looking at their screen time, I would look at mine. And I was like, well, geez, that's more than I thought. So,
yeah.
Right. So coming in and becoming aware and paying attention of your own, and like you just said, tracking food, tracking anything in your life that you know you want to improve on is a huge help.
Huge.
Like eye opener.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, we just need to have that awareness about, I mean, anything that you want to improve, there's always room for improvement, but you have to know where you are. And that was the third thing that when you said, you know, what are the three things that you would, you know, provide as instructions or suggestions for a new client to see some success right off the bat. The third thing is movement. Like, you just have to move. I mean, unless you have an active job, the majority of us are very sedentary. And, you know, there are just a couple occupations that I can think of that can get awesome steps in with no problem. For the rest of us, it needs to be like an actual focus. It needs to be when was the last time I moved? And for some people, it is shocking how little they move. And it kind of just becomes like it's part of our, you know, it's just the way that we live and move through our day. And, you know, we're not really aware of the steps, but if you start tracking steps and, you know, start thinking to yourself. And my encouragement is you just need to have activity every day. Like we're beyond like, you know, if you want to get more into it, you can definitely have that structured cardio on certain days and the structured strength training on certain days. But things like, you know, I encourage flexibility. People need to stretch every day. Like we need to be moving. We need to be maintaining that range of motion. Like, I do not want to not be able to reach up to my highest cabinet when I get older and need like, help when I don't have help to be, around. And it's kind of funny that we think like, oh, I'll exercise, blah, 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 whenever. Or, I mean, I talk to some people who are like, nope, I don't exercise at all. And I'm like, just walk, just walk. My favorite exercise is walking. And if you do it without earbuds or, whatever people are listening to, the practice of mindfulness, talk about getting to know yourself. Oh, it's incredible.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
You're speaking my language.
Yeah.
And I the same thing, just move more. On the days, like even the trackers that like the steps, I wasn't on that in the beginning. But once I put one on my arm,
Yep.
same as all the other things we've talked about, on the days that for whatever reason I'm at the computer more, I'm driving, like the driving of the kids.
Yes.
Whatever, and my steps are super low, I can feel it. When I look at the number, I'm like, no wonder I feel that way.
Yes.
I didn't move today. Like I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
And it's so easy. So I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
You have to move, and the stretching. That's a big one too. I feel like I do that like morning and night. It helps me sleep.
Oh my goodness.
And
that's the thing is that I recommend at the very minimum, just morning and night. Like you need to, fold in half and move your neck around, and and that's another way of like, I kind of, my oldest got a car and she pays every penny for this car, and she takes such good care of this car. She can know if there is the smallest scratch on that car, and it's like, I liken that to when we are constantly tuning into our body by doing certain things like that daily stretching, you'll start to notice like, oh, that feels funny. Oh, something's happening there. And you otherwise would not notice that until it became an actual problem. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
And it's like, these are the only bodies we have. This is it. It's you and this body. It's you and this mind for this one life. And it's like, we have this beautiful opportunity to just use these, ways of moving and nourishing it and, making connections and having fun and sleeping well and having faith and, and it doesn't need to be in any kind of organized religion or the universe, whatever the case might be, but it's got to, these things just help us live our very best life.
They do, because your body will heal itself when you give them all those things. And it's amazing. I would agree with you. So let me ask you, because we're kind of getting towards the end and I don't want to take much more of your time, even though I feel like I could keep talking to you.
I know. I hope I'm able to come back. I've just had so much fun with you.
I know. I definitely would love for you to. So you talked about starting. Do you have any tips on, or what helps them stay consistent? Because consistency is so huge. Would you say you have anything to keep your clients just, staying in these routines?
So first of all, you have to have a why. You absolutely have to there has to be something that's going to be your driving force, because it can't just be that you want to have like 5 pounds lost, or, that you want to be able to XYZ. So SMART goals, the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time tied. Yes. But those 5 can help you get to a why. So instead of it being, just like, I want to lose 5 pounds. What do you want to lose 5 pounds for? I want to feel amazing in my bridesmaid dress so that I can look back on this as a wonderful memory and have that, as whatever you can tie an emotional resonance to a goal, it's going to make it exponentially more powerful. And that's going to keep you moving in that right direction, because losing 5 pounds is not that awesome. Looking amazing in bridesmaids pictures that you're going to be looking at as a family for decades to come, that has enough of an oomph that when you don't want to exercise, it can help you exercise. So it's all about trying to figure out A, your why, and then B, you have to know that any change that you're starting is probably going to be brutal for the first week. So I have a ton of clients who want to be morning people. And it is this beautiful goal. And so, I mean, this is life-changing, and it is absolutely amazing. Like, I was talking with a client today, and she was saying, I never thought that I was going to be a morning exerciser, and here I am. And I feel so much more powerful than I've ever felt in my entire life. And it's so funny how like a simple shift can make for such a big change. But the beginning, when you are implementing a new change, it can be brutal for the first week, but you have to know that going into it and expect it, and then know that it's going to be better on the other side. So it's just a matter of like figuring out a way that you can keep yourself encouraged and motivated and inspired to keep going.
I like it. So where can people find you? Like, where's your books, which we didn't even get to your books. You have so many books, which I know on Amazon. I just searched your
Yes.
name and
I
found you,
have.
but is there, go ahead.
Yeah, so Amazon I have 23 published health books, and so those are all available on Amazon. We have a new book that's coming out on May 27th, and so that book is called She Rises and Thrives: Loving Life in Recovery, and this is specifically for women who are in recovery, and it's all about utilizing these same skills in faith, food, fitness, fun, fellowship, and sleep in order to be able to just not only, overcome and be able to, overcome adversity, but to also just be able to rise up and thrive in a life that we love living.
And just to be clear, recovering from so many things like you already talked about today,
So
like
many things. It's all connected. It's all
all
connected.
different.
Yep.
Yes. Wonderful. So is there a specific website that they would find you on?
Yes. So She Rises and Thrives, all one word, .com. Then so She Rises and Thrives.com is where to find me. And so my email address is Britt@SheRisesandThrives.com. And it's gonna be an amazing, I hope that it's a movement that helps women everywhere heal and not hurt during that, during that time of their lives, because I feel like that's when we need these things most.
I love that. Yes. And that you can come out and you can recover from whatever it is you're going through or experiencing.
That's right.
And that you have the power to do it. You really do, regardless of where we are, one small step at a time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just
I
like you
do
said,
love that.
it might not be easy, but they are simple. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Now, is there any social media that you're on, or is it mostly your website?
I do. They're all She Rises and Thrives except for my Instagram is Britt Brandon official, and we have our YouTube is She Rises and Thrives, and then Facebook the group is She Rises and Thrives, and we'll be having a VIP group after the book comes out for followers and readers of the book. So it's just an exciting time, and I feel like all of these, and it has been quite an adventure learning these different facets of social media, because I actually did. I don't know if you know what the 75 hard challenge is.
I saw it on your website.
Yes.
I did. Yes, I
So I
did see
did a
it.
video blog, and so I have had more connections from this YouTube, from the videos that I've just been recording them to help people who might be interested in doing the 75 hard challenge. So that's what we started the She Rises and Thrives YouTube channel for, and it's just been such fun.
Oh, I love it. Well, I definitely want to go out and find you. I will put all of these in the show notes so people can find you.
Thank you.
But I so enjoyed the conversation, Britt, and I thank you. I feel like we are aligned on so many of what you're working with your clients. So I love to hear that you are actually like that they're working with your clients and
Thank
they're
you.
improving their lives, and just like we all can get better, all of us, every single day.
That's right. And I so sincerely appreciate having me on today. This was such fun. I feel like I've known you forever. This is so funny that we're in such alignment on so many different things.
I know so many different things. So I enjoyed it so much. So thank you for your time, and I'll definitely have you back.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.